Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mary Langwish, and if you are an art teacher or wannabe art teacher, this video is for you. I'm going to take you through the 5 steps that I take when I come up with a class idea, a theme, a title, and a syllabus, all right here. So let's dive in. The first step is to ask yourself a few questions. This is important. Now, if you already have a place and students and maybe even direction on what you're going to be teaching, these might not be things that you can come up with yourself, but questions you can still ask and you might just already have the answers to. So we'll just go over them and you can kind of decide for yourself, depending on your situation, how that best works. So the first question I ask is, what do I want to teach? Do I want to teach watercolor? Do I want to teach acrylic? Do I want to teach pencil, clay, mixed media? It's endless, right? But put down some of the ones that come to mind that get you excited. And then the second question is to ask yourself some logistical stuff, like how long is this class gonna be? What's the duration of the class? Like, are we talking a 1-hour class that lasts like 10 weeks, once a week? Are we talking, a 15-week class where it's like an hour or 2 a week? So you need to kind of know those specifics, and you might already know. And then of course, what age group are you working with? How old are your students? Are we talking little kids, high schoolers, or adults? You need to kind of know that information before you go into planning a course, because you're going to design it for these students for the length of time with that medium in mind. So that's the very first step. Second step is to start brainstorming themes or titles. And what I mean by that is taking what you want to teach. So for example, I like teaching watercolor and I want to teach a class on watercolor. And so with that in mind, I could have a class that's titled Watercolor 101. Nothing wrong with that. That's great. It's not necessarily that exciting for maybe a younger age group, right? Like middle schoolers or something. They might not get super into that. So coming up with some other options that come to my head, like, there could be landscapes in watercolor, nature in watercolor, plants in watercolor. There could be how to copy famous art in watercolor, or how to do people in watercolor. There's a lot of ideas that maybe come to my head that I could write down. Now, what are some things you want to ask yourself about those is this theme or idea I have going to be enough content to fill a class, right? And is it going to be an interesting topic? And is it appropriate for my age group? These are some of the questions you want to ask about some of the things that come to mind that you jot down about the theme or about the title. So for example, landscapes in watercolor might be perfect for an adult class, but kids might get a little bored by that, right? And maybe really bored if it's like 15 weeks of that, Yes, you could find some interesting projects, but it might get a little boring pretty quick, right? But something like plants in watercolor might be great for like a middle school class, maybe high school too, where you have, 10 weeks together and you're gonna be really focusing on different types of plants and trees and all that type of thing, learning about watercolor. So that could be a good one. So you're just kind of checking some of those boxes to see if those questions get answered or not answered based on the things that you came up with. Step 3 is to look up examples and project ideas. This is my favorite part. So if you have Pinterest, use Pinterest or Google. If you don't have Pinterest, get Pinterest. It is like awesome. So I can type in like a specific art project and it'll show me that project or something similar. And I can kind of look at other options. You can also type in your title or your theme that you just jotted down and just kind of see what comes up for, landscapes in watercolor or plants in watercolor. What are some projects that come up? And then go down the rabbit holes. Pinterest is great for that. You can pull up a picture and underneath that picture it gives you other suggestions and you can click on that and it keeps going and going. You can go down tons of rabbit holes. And if you decide that you're going to shift your direction a little bit, go for it. This is the fun part. This is the part that I love the most because I get to use my creativity and explore what the options are and what's best going to fit my students. So when you're looking, save things. Like if you find stuff that fit into your theme and your title, save them. Make a board, have a Google sheet, whatever you need to do to save those ideas. You'll start to see different types of projects. You'll see projects that are very skill, practice, simple, repetitive, maybe a little more boring projects. Those ones are great for when you're teaching a technique or teaching a medium, right? So save as many of those as you can. You can change them to fit your theme better, right? Later. Also save ones that are a little bit more open-ended projects, some bigger projects, ones that your students can really dive into their creativity and their personal expression. You want a lot of those as well. So save all different types of projects that maybe fit into your theme or just get you thinking. And that's step 3. Step 4 is we're gonna start to reverse engineer our syllabus. Before we write anything for a syllabus, we're just gonna reverse engineer it. So we're gonna start at the beginning. That's not really reverse engineering, is it? I guess reverse means you start at the bottom and you work up, but it kind of depends on how you want to do it. So you could start at the beginning and then jump to the bottom, start to the bottom, work to the top. But basically what I mean is you want to figure out where your students are starting from. So are they experienced in watercolor? Do they need to learn watercolor techniques? Do you need to teach them about color theory? These are some of the things that you need to know. What are my students unable to do yet? And where are they starting from? How can I teach them those basic things, right? Then you jump down to the bottom and you want to figure out where you want your students to get to. What is it you want them to accomplish? Is it a series of 3 large paintings? Is it a group project? Is it a portfolio of projects? Like, what is that end result? It could also be a compilation of like skills that they've learned, right? Or techniques that they've learned. What have they learned in your class that they could show in a more personal expression way with a project? That's the end point. That's like a final project idea. Here's step 5 is to start to flesh out your syllabus. So now that you've looked up some ideas and you've saved some projects, you have your 2 bookends. Now you can fill in all the information. Now you can put more like basic skills, basic technique projects closer to the top of your syllabus so that they're in the, first 5 weeks of your class or something, or a week of your class. And then you start to go into more of the in-depth personal expression projects towards the end. Or you can do kind of a mix. You kind of combine them where you do a project and then you do more of an exercise, and you do project and a practice thing. You can kind of rotate things. Always leave enough room for work days depending on how long a project will take you, or multiple days, multiple weeks for one project. But you're just filling in now between your bookends what your class is going to look like. What are the projects that are going to get your students from A, where they are now, what things they can't do now, to B, the end, where they are going to be able to create that final project. So those are my 5 tips for creating a class idea, a theme, a title, and then sort of fleshing out your syllabus. So if you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you are an art teacher or want to be an art teacher, want to teach art, let me know in the comments, and let me know if there's any other topics or questions you have. I love to share my experience. I've been teaching art in so many different ways and in different classes and with so many different types of students for 20+ years, and so I want to just share my experience, what I've learned, what works best for me with you guys. So I have a lot of content coming up just for this topic. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.